at the Cannabis Life Conference in Toronto. I'm with Mara Gordon, the founder of Zelda's. So Mara, I actually just talked to you about the difference between cannabis and marijuana. Can you explain it for our audience?
Yes, thank you for asking. One of the main differences is that one of them is a racist, derogatory term, and the other one's the name of a plant. Marijuana was just something that was introduced by Anslinger and the governments to try and make cannabis out to be something that was very negative. For example, the pharmaceutical industry had cannabis involved in many, many of its medicines, and one of the things that they did to create prohibition against cannabis was they changed it to marijuana, and the doctors and the pharmacists didn't understand that they were talking about the same plant.
Right. Well, thank you for clarifying the difference there. So let's talk about the applications of CBD versus THC.
There are tremendous differences in the way that they're utilized. The one thing that I think that's very, very important to understand is that without THC, in most cases, CBD is not very effective. Besides the fact that we have found very, very strong evidence that whole plant, meaning that we use everything that's in the plant itself, all the cannabinoids and terpenes that are in it together, is much more effective and much more healing than an isolate or a single molecule. Now, CBD has the reputation of not having the psychoactivity, and THC does, and I even had somebody say to me recently in an interview, so let me get this right, THC is to get high and CBD is the medicine. And I said, not even close, not even close. Did not get it at all. And so they both are medicine, and they each have their own applications. Right. And the same way that we have thousands of different diseases and diagnoses, we have that just as many different treatment protocols.
Right.
There was so little information out there, and most of it was incorrect, that I thought, someone's going to understand how to dose. And so I decided to dedicate to figuring out the dosing conundrum around different disease sets and which cannabinoid terpene profiles and combinations and in ratios work for each different disease. Mm-hmm. What I've seen over the years is, first of all, people starting to use the word cannabis instead of marijuana, or weed or pot or dope or some of these other derogatory, pejorative terms. Right. But I also see so much more interest and so much more research being done around the world, and that's very, very exciting. Unfortunately, what's happening in some countries is you're getting some of these big hemp producers that are going in there and they're setting up as if you don't need to have THC, and that hemp CBD is just as good, when it is absolutely the furthest from the truth. It is not true at all.
Right. Now, lastly, where do you see Canada compared to other countries around the world in terms of being the leader in the cannabis industry?
I think Canada is doing some excellent things. I don't know that I would call it the leader. I think that you have very, very progressive laws in many ways, and I'm very excited about that. And I think that the fact that you guys can send things through the post, makes perfect sense. The fact that we're limited in the U.S. by, the arbitrary border of your state on whether you can have medicine or not and walk across the state line is just absurd. And I think what Canada's doing is phenomenal. I think that there's a lot of work to be done here on research that's not being done yet, to have it as available to a lot of people, but not to be pursuing the science so vigorously is
going to be an issue.
Is an issue.
Right. Is an issue and will be an issue later on.
And will be an issue later on, because you have a lot of misinformation. One of my companies is Calispring Wellness, which is our doctors and nurses that actually work with patients and helping them to understand the endocannabinoid system and how to actually manage their care. You have to worry about things like conflict with other medicines you're taking, and whether you need to have interaction issues. There's a lot of things that require that you have medical supervision. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, the medical community just is not really trained for this yet. Right. And we've seen some things in Canada where people have actually gone to dispensary or gone to whatever and not gotten the correct medicine for what their actual ailment is.
Well, hopefully we'll move forward and get better from now on.
Absolutely, and I'm very, very encouraged, and I'm very excited to be here. Canada is definitely one of my target focuses. We're really kind of like getting the nail on the head, so to
Right.
speak, of Aunt Zelda's in California, and then I wish to roll it out here in Canada. Partially because Canada can do the exportation.
Right. All right. Well, Mara, thank you so much for joining us today.
My pleasure. Thank you.
To get more from the Cannabis Life Conference, make sure you stay tuned to smallcappower.com.